So I talked a little bit with you about changing your language and being mindful of your language. So I want to try and think about making that more specific and clear about choosing winning language, your winning words. So I mentioned around family and, interacting with people at work, stopping and consciously actually deciding how you're going to speak about yourself in different forums and choosing winning words. And what I mean by that is, in the last video I talked about, the changes that I'd made in my own space, and the fact that for a while people would ask me, well, what I was doing, and I'm like, I don't know, I'm a little lost. I then recognized that I wasn't, taking my own advice, and I needed to sort of stop and think about, well, what is it that I'm having such trouble with in terms of articulating or trying to work out where to from here. And I think it was just, this feeling of not being clear, because actually there was multiple options that I had in front of me. So it's almost like I had too many choices and I needed to narrow down to what it is that I really felt called to do myself. But because I felt overwhelmed in that, I didn't actually choose my words very carefully when I was describing it. So when I recognized that, I then kind of stopped, and I stopped telling people that I was feeling lost. And I started telling people that I was pivoting, that I was, looking at being able to do things like this, where I'm able to get the information that people need to master their own mental health into their hands directly, and not feeling like, my professional position was kind of gagging me from being able to speak openly about what I truly know about how you improve your own mental health. And I think that that's a really important, just noticeable difference between how I was feeling when I was talking about feeling lost, as opposed to how I'm feeling now, where I feel like I'm in a little bit more kind of focused, conscious space, because I started speaking about the fact that I was in a transition, but I was looking at that transition more positively rather than looking at it in a completely negative way. Now, I'm not saying it's the easiest thing when you're not feeling great to just, force a positive mindset. But the ability to try and see the glass half full rather than half empty does really make a big difference when we start talking about how we, perceive ourselves in our day-to-day experience. So we talk a lot about things like mindfulness is about being present in the moment. When you're present in the moment, then your language is the thing that's really going to help you stay in that sort of centered space, not worried about the future, which is where anxiety sits, not, lamenting the past, which is where depression sits, but keeping you kind of present in the moment. And when you stay present, that's usually the place that you're able to best feel good, because you're in control of changing how you feel at any given point in time. Sure, there's going to be circumstances around you and potentially at work or whatever where things will annoy you, but there's a choice there in how you can still, whether you react to it, right? You don't have to necessarily let it eat you up. And I think making a language decision is just one of the ways. There are other ways that we have to recognize our triggers, but when we're triggered, the recognition of our own trigger and how it's making us feel, but making a language choice can really help to bring our brain back to that point where we can manage what's going on despite how we're, whatever circumstances made us feel. Does that make sense? There's a whole element to all of this around making the choice, a conscious choice, to change your language until it becomes second nature to you. Because it does become second nature. It'll take about 3 weeks of you making a conscious decision about choosing your words so that it reflects how you want to feel, right? If we just buy into the emotions of what we think we feel at the time, we can stay in that really dark, horrible space, right? So when we make a choice to use different language and we talk about things being more positive and what we're doing to help ourselves moving forward, it actually helps to lift that whole feeling within us that says we actually can do this for ourselves, right? And it's a really important element of how you start to master your own mindset, how you start to be the master of your own mental health, It's in making some of these conscious decisions at the beginning, but when we put those in place and we use them in a conscious way, they eventually start to become a normal part of how we turn up and view the world, right? So our ability to first use some of the things that we know that we have language is available to all of us who speak, right? So recognizing that when we change our language elements and we make that choice, that eventually it will start to feel like it's a normal thing that we do. We don't have to then consciously think about it. And anybody who's tried to change a habit at any point would understand that this is something that we do on an ongoing basis. When I decided to go back into the gym, and I was, going to the gym like 4 times a week kind of stuff and doing really heavy intensive training, I was, not thinking about not going to the gym, right? But what I did was I paid so much for a gym membership that it would cause me pain not to go, right? If you pay $10 a week for a gym membership, is there any surprise you don't go? A lot of people don't find the external motivator enough. But if I'm paying out, $100 for a gym, then it's painful if I don't go, right? If I miss a gym session, that's like $25 a hit. So I use an external motivator to help me get there. But then the other thing I do is become very conscious of my language, so that at night when I have to be up at 5:30 in the morning and I'm tired, I'm not sitting there telling myself I'm too tired to go to the gym in the morning, right? Because then I'm setting myself up to fail. I recognize that I'm tired and I'm going to go to sleep, and I'm hoping to have a good deep sleep because I'm going to be up and going to the gym at 5:30. I don't give myself an opportunity to make an excuse, because when we lay down in bed at night, it's really easy, especially in the winter, to talk yourself out of it already. So it's one of those elements I want you to just kind of think more clearly about how you manage that language system to help you achieve the things that you really want to achieve in your own life, right? Because it doesn't matter what your goals are. If you focus on what those goals, where you want to get to, you can use the language that you set up around it to make sure that you're focused on trying to achieve it. It's the same thing even when you want to bring focus into your life. It's, I often call in my part that's my focused part. And so rather than saying, I've just got no focus right now, which we can do and we'll stay unfocused. But if I turn around and I go, I'm not feeling very focused. All right, I just need to get focused right now. All right, maybe I'll make myself a cup of coffee, but I just really need to get focused right now. So if that happens, then your ability to be able to narrow that focus in gets much easier. All right, well, I'm hoping that helped. I think you'll get the next lot of information tomorrow. So hopefully you get an opportunity to see this through and start to make some noticeable changes around your language.